Hey there, everybody. So today I wanted to talk about my thoughts about another interaction that I've had. I've had a lot of interactions lately. I think it's because Charlie Kirk's death has kind of like exposed a lot of people for being awful people. But this isn't about that. This is actually about misogyny, and I think we have to have a real conversation about families and misogyny within, leftism, right? Now, I want to make something very clear. I am not one of those like pro-family psychos who believes that like the family should be the center of all things. I am like the opposite of that. However, I think that like a lot of people who are challenging that kind of mentality tend to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And what I mean by this is that there's this kind of demonization of motherhood that I think we need to have a real conversation about, right? And I think that the problem with discussing motherhood is that motherhood is something that's been framed very much by people who are not mothers. It's something that is very structured by misogynistic pressures, by what men expect mothers to be, right? And I bring this up because a few days ago, I was in a fight with some people, and it all started because I had just brought up on the side, just casually. These people have always been kind of mean to me. I don't know what their problem is. I think they're like a bunch of 20-year-old hipsters, if I'm going to be blunt. But they thought it was weird that I had, at one point, an 18-year-old, or a stepson that was 18 years younger than me. I'm 32, and my stepson is 14, and they thought that was weird. Now, first off, that's my stepson, or was my stepson. I have no relation to the child and genetically, so it's not like I fathered or mothered the child at 18. So I don't understand what's so weird about that. Like, I literally that's a child from another relationship. I mean, I feel like saying something like that is like just kind of telling on yourself that you've never really interacted with children for more than 5 minutes at your job. And just to be clear, raising children is nothing like working with them. Okay? And this take is like, even if that child was mine, right? Even if he wasn't my stepson, even if he was my son, I still think it's very inappropriate to tell people, especially to their face, that it's weird that your child is, and that there's a small age gap between your child and you, right? And this blew up into a fight that was highly misogynistic. And I really want the people who, I don't really care if they watch this video, but I really want people who were going around and going as far as calling me a fascist because I was pushing back against this shit, to think about the language and the way that they talk about these things and how that it comes heavily embedded with misogyny, right? So, like, what this kind of erupted into was them kind of arguing that it's wrong for a woman who's 18 years old to be pregnant. And I just think that's ridiculous. I don't think you can be a feminist and hold the opinion that it's wrong for an 18-year-old to be pregnant. Like, quite frankly, an 18-year-old should be free to do with whatever they want with their body, right? The question of whether or not they are pregnant, like, if you have a problem with that, you should be pissed off about the man who raped her, quite frankly. Like, why are you talking about her and her being pregnant? One of the questions I was presented was, do you think it's wrong that a 17-year-old is pregnant or can be pregnant? And I just think to myself that this person has no sympathy for teenage moms, because the problem isn't the woman being pregnant. The problem is whoever made her pregnant, right? To be clear. And it sucks that I wasn't able to realize this at the time of 5 people going down my throat, because I'm upset that they think it's weird that my stepson is a bit, has a smaller age gap than they think is normal. And I'm sorry, if you're European brained, you need to stick your head out of your ass. This is a reality that millions of women have to deal with in developed nations, right? Being young and being a mother, right? And the thing that pisses me off about this discourse is that I can tell none of these motherfuckers have kids, because you deal with these kinds of parents when you are a parent, or you're one of those assholes that just keeps yourself isolated and insulated from all the dirty people. But we're not talking about assholes. We're talking about like people who are not dicks. But you're going to encounter parents who are like that. You're going to encounter people who had children before they were 20. I mean, that was my previous relationship. And I'm going to be real with you. I don't think that my ex, raped their partner to have that child. I don't think that that's a fair framing of events, right? I don't even think that there was anything like that on the table, right? I think it was just some kids that were, 18-year-old kids fucking around, and then one of them got pregnant. I mean, that's usually how it happens, right? And like, just the lack of sympathy and the lack of awareness to like what it's like to actually like raise a family. Like, this is part of the reason why you are gaining zero traction in the real world, why the only people who listen to you are people online, because you alienate families. You alienate people who are dealing with the most difficult struggle one of the most difficult struggles in society right now, which is raising a child, right? And you're alienating them because you're using all this language and discourse that demonstrates that you don't know anything about raising children. You don't know anything about, any of that, right? And I think like the most annoying part about this is that like I'm not gonna pretend that like my behavior was like top dollar or anything. I mean, I'm sorry, but when I can tell that you guys are a bunch of people who have never, never had a family, let alone never had sex, I'm going to call that out when you're starting to make takes on how people should raise their families. Like we need to be realistic about, our relationship with the family. We can't just be like, oh, we're turbo virgins, we don't need to talk about this, right? Like, some of us aren't. In fact, the overwhelming majority of society is not. Just because you're a shut-in doesn't mean that people aren't going around and having children and having babies. And, I think the question of what to do with reproduction in the family is one of the most important questions that we have to think about, right? Because obviously the structure of the family, which is rigid and fascist and all of this crap, does not solve the problem. The atomic family, nuclear family, does not do anything does not help us raise children. It helps us produce property, right? And this is kind of part of the reason why society is falling apart, because these children are not able to function in society because they're property, right? They come out of their childhood and they don't know what the fuck to do, and they get fucking bodied by every scam that is going on around, society. And I don't understand how you can take seriously ideas like, oh, we have to change the subjectivity of, society and all these things, if you're not willing to start within the family and understand how the family currently functions, right? Now, in my opinion, I think that a lot of the problem regarding, just the discourse surrounding, pregnancy and women and motherhood and things like that is that the understanding of what these things are is so heavily encoded by patriarchal values that we literally view reproduction in a binary. We seem to think a lot of people seem to think that it's a problem when a woman gets pregnant, and I think that's problematic. I don't think it's inherently problematic when a woman gets pregnant. I think it's problematic that we live in a society that doesn't support pregnant women. I think it's problematic that we live in a society that pressures women to get pregnant. And I think it's problematic that we live in a society that tells men that it doesn't matter if they get a woman pregnant, and that the consequences are relatively light in comparison to what the woman has to deal with, right? And like, all of these things are serious questions that we need to deal about. And I've noticed this with just this kind of politics in general. Like, you guys are not interested in dealing with the anatomical questions that surround a woman. You're not interested in the questions that arise from that. You're not interested in the concept of motherhood and reforming the concept of being a mother into something that is more, you know, viable for a woman's, independence. Because the thing is that there's a lot of women who do want to get pregnant, who do want to have children, and we shouldn't be punishing those women for that. In fact, we should be embracing that, because the more children that we can raise that are able to have this kind of like capitalist subjectivity broken, the better. We should be supporting people who want to bring people into the world who break that pattern. So why the fuck are you going around and humiliating people in public, in groups, for having children at a young age? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I don't understand how these people can call themselves feminists. I don't understand how these people can be serious about anything when their modus operandi is making fun of people who are in circumstances that they view as negative or unfortunate. Like, what the fuck? Don't do that. I don't care what your fucking pseudo logic is. It's misogynistic to make fun of women or parents who have children born in those situations. The child and the parent, the child and the mother did not even make that decision. Okay, let's get real, right? I think, like, moving forward, we should really think about how we talk about these issues, right? I don't think we should focus on the subject of pregnant women like this. I don't think we should say things like, oh, well, how do you feel about 17-year-old pregnant teenagers? Like, I feel bad for them, but, like, I also don't think that they're the problem. Okay? Like, I personally don't think the problem is 17-year-old pregnant girls. I think the problem is the people who make them pregnant. And it was really shocking to me, thinking back about that conversation, how little we talked about them and how much we focused on these poor pregnant young women. Now, personally, I think that I would like to live in a world where women can make the choice on whether or not they want to be pregnant at 18 and feel comfortable knowing that they are supported in whatever choice that they make. I think that's more important than anything else, right? In this particular question. And I just don't think it's that complicated. I don't understand why everybody has to have these I don't understand why everyone wants to control women. I guess that's my point, right? I don't understand why people want to tell women what to do constantly, regardless of whether, it's this or that or the other. Like I feel like people who say these things just don't talk to people who are in poverty, or talk to people who are in these situations, or deal with these situations. Like, I just don't know what else to say. Like, I feel like if you're a parent and you're not going to you're not sending your kid to a rich private school and hiding in a BMW or something, like, you've probably encountered parents like this before, and I just don't understand how you could have so little sympathy. So yeah, just my 2 cents on that. And I think I don't want to I don't want this to be seen as a call out post, because that's not how I'm seeing it myself. I'm seeing it more just like, it's crazy that that's the way that we talk about this question. It's crazy that this is the kind of situation that I have to find myself in. I'm not going to say I'm perfect. I'm not going to say that, everything that I do is amazing, or all my takes are amazing, but it's just crazy that is like a normal attitude within our community. So